Again, we're traveling. I'm on my brother James's laptop at this moment. My laptop would not work for whatever reason. Yes, that is a stuffed greenhead mallard duck. That's a cinnamon teal. And yes, that is a treadmill. So, guys, let's get into it. Okay, folks. So I want to get into everything that happened on Sunday Night Football. Again, we were at the game. Tailgate was incredible. I had a lot of fun. But I want to go through a couple of articles and really discuss what happened, review Brandon Staley's notes, and I want to get your opinion, guys. More than anything, this is a video where I really want to get a discussion going with you guys, and agree or disagree with me, right? I mean, I know a lot of people really like Brandon Staley. Personally, I think Brandon Staley is a great coach. I'm just a little frustrated with some of his, other coaches, right? Joe Lombardi, his play calling down the stretch, especially throwing two picks to end two games here at this point, right? So it's been a little frustrating to watch for me specifically. So let me share my screen. Let me go into a little bit of, some of the things that, frustrated me a little bit about Brandon Staley moving forward. So um, a lot of people were pretty frustrated with the timidness that Brandon Staley has shown this season, right? Where's the fourth and Staley? Where's the ability to, you know, drive the ball down the field? There was a number of times where we were, it was 4th and 1, right? There was a very specific time, right? And again, we had way too many times where we're just not going for it. We're not putting it in the offense's hands and we're not moving the ball down the field. Now, I get the concept that yes, our team is different from last year. That was this discussion from the beginning of the season. Um, we have not really taken the lead. And again, we're looking very timid. Like we're looking like we're playing not to lose, which is incorrect, guys. You want to be the aggressor, and we're just not. And there's been a few times that Brandon Staley's talking about, no, we want to be aggressive against our offense. Well, I'm not seeing that. What I'm seeing is really just timidness. That's the right word for it, timidness. We're not, you know, we're not pushing the ball downfield. We're not using Brandon Staley, or we're not using Justin Herbert correctly. The calls that Joe Lombardi are using just poor. So it's been pretty frustrating for me, right? And again, I think a lot of fans are feeling the exact same way. And a lot of people we speak to, again, we tell people that we have a podcast. We talk about the Chargers, and most of the people that we talk to go, yeah, Justin Herbert's not being used correctly, right? And so that's a big part of the problem. And again, aggressive play calling has been gone, right? No fourth and Staley. But I don't like his response here, right? So, and this is the second time this year, by the way. Again, I think we could have won both games. We could have beat the Chiefs both times, not going for it on fourth down. Our defense, so the response was our defense was playing at a high level. Were we playing at a high level? See, guys, I would really argue that we were not playing at a high level, right? We were actually not doing that great. We had given up like 500 and something yards, right? I think almost 100 and was it almost 150 yards on the ground rushing, right? I mean, come on, we were not playing that great. Well, why did we push the ball, right? And it's starting to make me wonder if I'm a football player, if I'm Justin Herbert, if I'm the line, if I'm Keenan Allen, if I'm Mike Williams, you start I would start thinking, does my coaching staff believe in me at this point, right? Does this coaching staff think I can go get a yard, right? Instead of punting the ball. And again, I think that's part of the reason why I really liked fourth and Staley was that no, we're going to go for it. We're going to push the ball downfield. We're going to be the aggressor and make it happen. And you know what we've seen these last two games, really even the two times that we played against the Chiefs this season, is we're just not being aggressive. We're just playing not to lose. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. And so, that has been very frustrating for me. So this article goes into a little bit. Again, this is from the Charger fellows that were at the game, and they were pretty frustrated, right? We were pretty frustrated, and we chatted quite about this, even at the tailgate prior to the game. So issue. So I don't know. I just feel like, the Chargers were leading, 2016 at the time, and we just weren't going for it, right? And, I just feel like flipping the field position was the right thing to do. Look, I don't necessarily disagree with him on that. But again, the statistics, and this is my frustration with it more than anything, is that we keep talking about statistics and statistics and statistics. And the statistics said last season to go for it more frequently. Well, how does it all of a sudden changed? I just think it's a mindset, right? We've changed our mindset to some degree, and that part has become pretty frustrating for me. And it makes me wonder, if he's starting to feel the heat, right? Understanding that, Sean Payton's in the wings, and I'm sure he reads things and people talk and are asking questions. Well, what do you think of this? Why didn't you do that? And again, maybe he's feeling the pressure at this point, right? Again, he's a first time head coach, and so those are some things to think about. You got to wonder, right? Because he seems like a very put together type of person, but it almost seems like he's struggling, um, this season to really, um, be the same coach that he was last season, right? And that is a concern to me, right? Because again, playing not to lose never works. It never works, guys, right? It just does not. And so, yeah. Anyways, so I don't really want to go too deep into this, right? But this is a pretty good kind of breakdown. And again, Kelsey just ticked me off. 3 touchdowns. I think he only had 6 total catches, and just, oh my God, he just beats up when we needed some coverage and we just couldn't make it happen. They talk a little bit about, the coverage that they had. You know, there was some miscommunication, and like, guys, those are excuses, right? Like, come on, like, those are excuses. Well, you did a poor job of coaching your players to cover Kelsey. Why did that happen? That should not have happened. So I don't know. I'm starting to feel a little chinks in the armor, if you will, at this point, right? So, it's frustrating. And again, Brandon Staley's 1-3 against the Chiefs. You know, again, my argument has always been he was largely hired to beat the Chiefs, and right now he's doing what? He's 1-3 against the Chiefs. Um, and again, his only win was a game in which he was aggressive and played to win, not to lose. I mean, I couldn't have said it better, right? So, I mean, again, shout out to the Bolt Beat and Charger Chat. I mean, these guys they put out fantastic material. I'm sure you guys watch a lot of their stuff as well too. So let's get into the notes. Let's go into Brandon Staley's actual notes, and let me share with you my screen there. Um, you know, again, I get a little frustrated when we start looking at Brandon Staley's notes. Oh, let me adjust my screen here. So this is the full transcript on Monday. So let's talk a little bit about Mike Williams. This is another thing that's been a little frustrating for me, and I don't want to go too deep into this. Like, I want this to be a positive, not a negative type video. But there were a few things I wanted to get off my chest from these last 2 games, right? And again, we all know winning makes everyone a lot happier. And I will say this: the next 2 games we've got to win. We have got to win the next 2 games. We've got to beat the Cardinals. We will be at the game again Friday night. I think it's downtown Tempe. We're taking over Mill Street. And then the tailgate's going to be absolutely off the hook. I think there's like 200 or 300 people registered for that already. But Mill Street's going to be off the hook Friday night. It's going to be super fun. And then, yeah, it's just going to be a blast, guys. If please contact us if you're in the area. We definitely would love to see you. So enough of that. A couple things here. This really bothered me when I read these last 2 lines about Mike Williams specifically, and I was frustrated because I'm like, man, Mike Williams is back and he's not out there. So he had a re-aggravation of it last night, but not a significant re-injury. Guys, the problem with that to me is, like, are we that soft? As a team, are we that soft? And I get really, this is football, guys. This is football. They're not out there tickling each other, right? This is not a tickling contest. I mean, say what you will about injuries, concussions, and whatever, but we're paying these guys a lot of money. They need to play. And if he gets a boo-boo, is he going to sit on the bench the rest of the game? I mean, come on, like, dude, how many times have we seen players get back out there and just go? And again, we don't even know where he's at right now moving forward. I think the last I checked, he's still day to day, probably questionable, even playing against the Cardinals. Mike, if I had to guess, he'd probably say he's probably not going to play against the Cardinals. The other frustration I had was Keenan Allen wasn't out there very often. I noticed he was out there for certain plays, but not a ton. And I was like, come on, man. Like, and I get that we might want to give him a lighter snap count or whatever. But look, if you don't see Keenan let me give a great example. If you don't see Keenan Allen out there, what would that immediately tell the defense? Probably a run play. Okay. Because they're not going to throw the ball, right? Every time I did not see Keenan Allen out on the field, most of the time it was a run play. And I'm like, God, dude, like, think through this shit a little bit, right? That stuff gets very frustrating to me that, yeah, we're putting him on a snap count, but we're also tipping the defense what we're going to do before we do anything. And it's like, come on, dude, like, just think through some of this stuff. Like, it's frustrating me to no end. A lot of times I saw him on the sidelines. We ran the ball, and it's like, come on, guys. I don't know. Again, another tangent. I apologize, but I get really frustrated. So again, Joey Bosa, this is really upset too. I don't have one. No update. Now, just so you know, the original update was 6 to 10 weeks. I think we're on week 8, maybe week 7, 7, 8, something like that. So we're right in the middle. Week 10 would put him probably at the Raiders game, I believe. So, okay, fine. But again, it gets really frustrating when we sit back and, these are our updates that are just not really an update. There's just nothing there. Anyways, it's just really frustrating to me. The Justin Herbert bit was frustrating too. Um, Ultimately, what he's saying here is, look, at the end of the day, you got to push the ball downfield, and this is just what happens. I don't really like that either. It's clear that he's not willing to say Justin Herbert made a bad read, or he made a bad call, or the wide receiver went the wrong way. I can understand the one that happened against the Niners was tipped up in the air and then the ball was caught, but this one was a little bit more flagrant, right? And I get a little frustrated that this is sort of the response. Um, you know, and again, I think this is a good point, and I do think that he did give Keenan Allen a chance, at least on that play. Um, I don't know. Again, I think there was about 35 seconds left on the clock, but we had 2 timeouts. 2 15-yard plays would have gotten us at least in field goal range, and then we could have, taken 1 or 2 shots in the end zone, right? With our timeouts. I don't know. I just really felt like the play calling was pretty poor. Again, my feelings about Joe Lombardi, right? Like, I'm just not a fan. Love to have a conversation with him at some point. Hey, Joe, why don't you hop on our podcast and explain to us why play calling's been so horrible this year? So I'd love to hear what you say. So let's talk a little bit about this as well, too. The level of urgency. They always say this in the NFL, right? That yes, it's week to week, one game at a time. Again, I understand the focus is on Arizona. Now, in the next 2 games, we have Arizona and then we have the Raiders, right? We need to win both of those games. Guys, I promise you this. If we don't win both of the next 2 games, I think the chances of us making the playoffs are slim to none. I mean, really and truly, because again, we have then we have the Titans, and then we also have the Fish, right? And they're playing really well, right? Yeah, Miami's looking great. And so, yes, you could say we played both of these teams right down to the wire, but just like Brandon Staley always says, in the NFL, a pat in the back doesn't matter, right? That doesn't matter. You play to win the game. You play to win the game. Is it Coach Green? You play to win the game, and you do. And it gets frustrating when you sit back and you're like, well, we were close. We were this and that. No, guys, we were there to win. And again, I know Brandon Staley's frustrated. I know he wants to win, but there is a level of urgency that I'm starting to question a little bit here, right? And again, it partially goes back to these injuries, right? But not a significant re-injury. Well, why didn't you? I watch a little soccer as well too. They just spray them with a little bit of, you know, numbing, whatever that is, and they just go back out there and play. Obviously, that they flop half the time, anyways. But my point is, look, it's a contact sport. These guys are out there to play, and we need to win. And this is the Chiefs, as close to a playoff game as there is, right? So, I get a little frustrated because, we got these, Mike Williams is out, Joey Bosa is out. The level of urgency is not there. Like, and I'll tell you right now, I made this conversation a few times, right? If we don't make the playoffs, I really do think Brandon Staley is going to be let go by the end of the season. And we'll probably go get, a Sean Payton, right? We'll pay whatever he's going to want. I think bottom line, we have to be inventive, and we're not. We're also not being aggressive, and that's my frustration. And I'm also not seeing a lot of level of urgency. So that starts stacking up. Now, I want to ask you this question, guys. Okay. We're a few minutes into the video. Let's see where I'm at time wise. 15 minutes in the video at this point. Do you feel like Brandon Staley has lost the locker room? Do you feel like the players are starting to lose confidence in our coaching staff? I want to get your thoughts on that. Do you think they have lost faith in Brandon Staley? I think they've definitely lost faith in Joe Lombardi. I personally think Joe Lombardi he's just there. Um, and again, to Brandon Staley's detriment, he might not be around as a head coach because of Joe Lombardi. Joe Lombardi has done a very poor job of doing anything um, creative, right? Again, we've talked about this at nauseum, and I don't want to go too deep into it. So, um, but anyways, so again, I think this is what's kind of frustrating too. We have put that one behind us, as tough as it is, last night and the week before. Well, those are those types of games, but you can't let those guys affect the next one, which is of course the Cardinals. And Cardinals right now are looking bad, right? I'd be surprised if Cliff Kingsbury gets fired. I think he did just fire their offensive line crew, so it'd be very interesting to see what happens. Our pass rush should be pretty good. We have to come back on Wednesday with a lot of purpose for Arizona because they're a good team, and Arizona is a good team, guys. They are a very good team, but Kyler Murray most likely will not be out there. And it's frustrating, right? It's one of those other things. Now, again, going back to the whole Mike Williams conversation, Kenneth Murray, he had a stinger that did not resolve last night, but he's better today. A stinger. Guys, like, are we a soft team? Again, that's the part that has really frustrated me too. A stinger. Now, I understand they hurt. Guys, trust me, I played through pain. You know that I play sports. Heck, I'm going to be going to play pickleball right now with James. I got some injuries, but look, at the end of the day, these are professionals. They should be out there making it happen. There's a staff getting people ready to go out there and play their best. How soft is this team? Is another question I'm starting to have because a stinger, sorry, he didn't come back out. Okay, right? Like, what's going on? I mean, that's just weird to me that we're not pushing the envelope in any way, shape, and form. Um, on Gerald Everett's questionable entering the game, that's correct. Okay, well, what's going on? Okay, so then they ask again. No, he had a groin injury during the week, so he must have injured himself again during the week. Happened to Keenan Allen. Happened to Parham. Again, I'm starting to question even our coaching staff the way that we're handling some of these injuries. Right? You get a little boo boo, you sit out, and then you don't come back, and then you re-aggravate yourself again during the week, and then you never come back during the entire season, right? I mean, but these guys are paid millions of dollars. I'm starting to question the way we're handling our talent as a team. It's frustrating. It's frustrating for me as a content creator because we sit back and we go, wow, what the hell is this all about? That just doesn't make any sense. So again, I like to read between the lines, in my opinion, and I like to see sort of what he's saying here, right? And it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating, right? And again, the offensive line allowed 5 sacks against Herbert, right? This also is another reason why I'm starting to think that the team might be um, giving up, and that part is frustrating me, right? The sense of urgency conversation is hard, right? Because again, there was one likely batted ball, the deflection. Again, I get all those things happen, right? Um, these things happen sometimes against teams that can rush, a good pressure team. Sometimes things can make that happen. The good thing is that he didn't have any bad turnovers for us last night. When stuff like that happens, that's a strength, his ball security. And I get that. But the bad turnover, yeah, well, that's what happened at the end of the game, right? That was it. Guys, I know what it feels like to be the last out. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now, I was playing a softball tournament. I was the last out in a softball tournament. The game, I think we were down 2 runs. Had a guy on first and a guy on second. I hit an absolute laser to the left fielder. He made a play and he got out, but it wasn't. It was just an absolute rip. It should have. If it went into the gap, it would have easily been a double or triple. But I felt horrible because I felt like I let my team down. And I know they played hard to win that game. So I understand what it feels like to be the guy that lost the game or mentally feel like you lost the game for your team. It's not something you forget. Again, that happened, a few months ago, and it's something I still think about quite often. So I imagine how Justin Herbert feels, right? 2 weeks in a row, guys. 2 weeks in a row with two really good teams. So it's going to be really interesting. I really feel like this Cardinals game is going to be a very telling game for us on where this team really is. So, okay. Yeah, this was interesting too. I remember thinking about this batted down, if Herbert was instructed to bat the ball down, when it got deflected, he says, we would, but our natural reaction sometimes is it happens so quickly that you just want to catch the ball instead of deflecting. I understand that, right? That does make sense, right? You're a competitor, you're out there doing it. Um, and this has been an interesting thing for me as well too. I feel like he's had a lot of batted balls this season, and I really wonder what that is, right? And I keep thinking about this. Let's just read this paragraph. No, he has a beautiful delivery. Of course he does. Great stroke, 6'6". I think that it's just the nature of it. Sometimes the defense make good plays. I get that. But teams are making that happen. Again, guys, this is where I get frustrated, right? It's like, okay, to me, this is an excuse for knocking it down. Now, if I was Brandon Staley and Shane Day and Joe Lombardi, I'd be having conversation with Herbert about making sure he does not get these batted down balls. Are we not coaching him up? Are we not making him better? I'm getting a little worried that we are not, right? Now, my brother just did a video on our playoff picture yesterday. And, I started asking myself this question, right? Well, are we really shooting for the playoffs at this point, right? And I would hope the answer would be yes, and I think the answer is yes. But where I'm starting to get a little frustrated, it feels like that it's not one urgency or the ability for us to produce or trend positive, right? We're just sort of malazing around. That's a good way of describing it. Very frustrating, right? Too. So, anyways, I don't want to go too deep into this. This is kind of frustrating to me, anyways. But the whole Derwin James and Travis Kelsey situation, I don't know. I just get really frustrated, right? So, I all night he was not on this. No single same person was covering Travis Kelsey. And Brandon Staley started saying that there were some blown coverages, and this is really what talks about right here. Um, so things were contested last night. You didn't see him catch anything wide open. Well, the last play was pretty damn wide open from what I saw. There was a good mixture of coverages, lots of different types of rotation, man to man and zone. Look, I know there were a lot of different people covering him at different times, and I get you're playing Patrick Mahomes, right? And yes, he does create more space. Well, so does Justin Herbert, right? I don't want to continue giving him a lot of credit. He's not freaking Superman here, guys, right? At the end of the day, the reason why their offense is better is they have a better play calling system, right? You don't have Joe Lombardi, like first and foremost, right? Andy Reid is one of the best play callers ever to play in the NFL or coach in the NFL for that matter. So it's really frustrating to me. You know, these are sort of excuses, in my opinion, not really helping, um, this team improve in any way, shape, or form. So, um, again, I don't really want to go too deep into this, but again, this was the same thing about Travis Kelsey, Callahan, Derwin James. All these different people were trying to do different coverages. The penalty on fourth down, which was super frustrating. You know, I just get really frustrating. And I don't know. I get really annoyed with a lot of that. I don't want to go too deep into it, but again, my frustration was this feels like a lot of what this feels like a lot of is excuses to me, right? It doesn't feel like there's really any real focus. Like to me, I would have had DJ on him 100%. I see Kelsey in the game. DJ is going to be all over you like white on rice. Take him off the field. Okay. He had 3 touchdowns, guys. 3 touchdowns. I would not have had Bryce Callahan, you know, Davis, whatever he thought was going to happen. I would have not have done it that way, right? That just does not make sense. Take that guy off the board. One of the things that I have really liked about Bill Belichick is when he has a player like a Kelsey, he will lock that one person down, right? He would put, JC Jackson on that guy. You are on him all night. You see him on the field, you go there. Now, and then if he's not on the field, great. You play zone or you play whatever. You would have a completely different setup or scheme moving from that point. So again, I get a little frustrated that I really felt like we were playing man, they were playing zone. I don't know. I, again, and maybe I don't understand enough about football in general to really understand why they would want to go that way with the Chiefs. But to me, I would rather just take him off the board, put your best guy on best, and make him beat him. And that part just really frustrated me. So, anyways, on the rush plan on Mahomes on 4th down scramble, it was just a 4-man rush. This look, I get it. I get it. And the reason why you want to do 4-man is because that we're going to pass. But my point is, a 4-man rush also doesn't allow him to be contained or gap sound, right? Because the whole field is going to be stretched at that point. It gets pretty frustrating. Again, Zion Johnson's looking great. I'm really happy with Zion. I think he's done a fantastic job. I think there's some good things he's been doing, and I cannot say enough about Jamari, right? The one thing I will say, our offensive line looks absolutely amazing. I mean, absolutely fantastic. Just been a huge fan of what we've done. And this is good news. So if there's some positive here, guys, um, he should be back in practice next week, which is a really good thing. So I'm kind of excited to see where we're at with that as well, too. So let me stop sharing my screen. Gosh, we're almost 30 minutes into this. So what are my final thoughts, guys? Look, my concern, I'm going to say this right now. And again, I want to hear your thoughts on this. Has or have we lost the team at this point? Has this team given up on our coaching staff? I'm not convinced they have, but I will say this, they're waning, right? There's a conversation where I feel like I'm seeing us play not to lose, not to go out there and aggressively win. Brandon Staley, what a lot of people liked about him is we just went out and we just played. We balled out. We balled out. And we did not do that. We have not done this these past 2 games. Now you could argue, I think the argument from a coaching perspective is, hey, let's be healthy into the playoffs, assuming we make the damn playoffs. And guys, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing a playoff caliber team right now. I'm seeing a team that's just floundering. Right? We are 5-5. So if there is positive, look, we have great players. Zion Johnson's looking great. Jamari Sarr's looking amazing. We have pieces. But my problem is our coaching staff is not making those pieces run better, right? I feel like a lot of the play calling was really poor, right? I mean, again, we can talk about this jet sweep right into Nick Bosa's arms. I mean, wow, what a gift. What a gift. I mean, who does that? Who does that? Nobody does that. So, guys, what are your thoughts? Do you think that we have lost our way to some degree, or we're struggling somehow to find an identity as a team? Do you think that potentially the players have lost faith in our coaching staff? Do you think that they've given up on this season? Do you think that they're not really listening to our coaching staff anymore? During these play calls. What are your thoughts? Again, the whole reason why we do this podcast is we want to talk to the fan base. I'm going to give you my opinions, and I want to discuss. So, what are your thoughts down below? Let us know. And guys, again, we are in Arizona. Okay, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm next to these 2 ducks and a treadmill. But look, I want you guys to see. I'd love to see you guys at the tailgate if we can. We're going to be there Friday, and we're going to be out at that tailgate pretty much from moment one. I'm super excited. So, as always, guys, Andrew Bopros. See you guys in the next one.